That's hopefully a lot of you can relate to this. Hopefully a lot of you sitting here and thinking, well, I have content like this. This is what my homepage looks like, or this is what my email looks like. And I'll get to that and I'll demonstrate to you and I'll describe some of the challenges involved with this and the requirements and what we've done with them. Now, a little bit about Jetlore. Jetlore is a startup out of Silicon Valley. I'm proud to say that just last week, we actually were named Gartner Cool Vendor 2016, specifically in the retail sector, because we were recognized as one of the most innovative and disruptive solutions in the sector. And we've been growing super rapidly in the last couple of years. You can see, hopefully a lot of you recognize a lot of the brands on this slide. Those are all our customers. And I'm proud to say that our customers grow 40% faster than the industry average. And it's largely thanks to the efficiency and performance that we're driving for our customers. And so hopefully you'll enjoy this presentation and understand why Gartner and a lot of premium venues recognize Jetlore as one of the innovators in the space. But before we do that, before we dive into the case study, before we talk about the challenges that this brand had, I want to tell you a little bit about the industry trends, where we headed from the e-com perspective, from the digital perspective. Here it's fashion digital. It's all dedicated to digital experience. So I want to kind of set up the stage and say, what is different about e-commerce today from what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Because that will set the stage on why personalization or relevant content is so important for fashion brands these days. When e-commerce was first envisioned, and I would say for the last 20 years, it was always very transactional. SEO was a big transaction driver, and what would happen is that you capture users through search with an intent to buy something specific. Let's take an example. Let's say I'm searching for North Face jacket. You can see this is a page of Google search results. As the users land on the product detail pages, so I land on this North Face jacket page, all of the automation tools and all of the machinery that companies would use was focused on driving me, pushing me down the funnel in the context of that transaction. So specifically, here's a North Face jacket. Here are 5 nearly identical jackets suggested to me as product recommendations. That's kind of what people would associate with the concept of personalization. If the user is ready to buy, the fastest and simplest way is guest checkout. We all have done that. If you've been in the commerce business, you want to remove all possible friction for the user to complete the transaction. If the user is not ready to buy, well, I have my triggered messaging in place. So I have my push notifications or emails for shopping cart abandonment or browsing abandonment that remind the user to complete the transaction. A lot of you may associate this concept with the concept of personalization. But in reality, it's really the concept of contextualization. What we're trying to do here, we're trying to look at the user, look at the transaction, and trying to contextualize the experience for that transaction. Now, the problem is that e-commerce has gotten very competitive. Nowadays, Amazon is squeezing everybody out. Every single marketing channel is extremely expensive. And you need to start thinking about marketing channels like SEO as a user acquisition strategy rather than the transaction driver. And when you think of the most recent e-commerce success stories, and I could probably do a little survey here and ask you what are the most successful e-commerce stories from the last 3 years, I would personally name probably Wayfair. They made over $2 billion online and experienced phenomenal growth in the last 5 years. I would say Zulily with $2.5 billion market cap and acquired by QVC. And I would say Etsy that went public in the last few years. What have these companies done differently from everybody else? It wasn't triggers, it wasn't product recommendations, it wasn't any of those things. It wasn't contextualization that they've done well. What they've done well is tailoring the experience to each individual user and building that relationship with the customer, loyal relationship with the consumer, making the profile and user identity a focal point of the experience. That's what they've done really well. Even if they don't convert you in the context of a specific transaction, they will ensure that you will create an account with them. You cannot buy unless you create an account. And then they work really hard to create a dialogue with you on a daily basis. And that dialogue consists of Give me fresh content, engage with that content, tell me a little bit about yourself, I'll serve you new fresh content. Serve fresh content, read users' response, engage me with new fresh content. A great example of that is Etsy. Etsy is a great example of that with their product feed. You can come in every single day and there will be new items to discover, new jewelry to look at. And that's what this brand has done extremely well. And that's the new model of commerce. That's the new model of e-commerce. If you attended one of the keynotes in the morning, I think it was Magnetic CEO, he said that consumers shop at fewer retail brands every single year. Before we shopped at 10, now we shop at 5 or 6. So how can you be one of these 5 or 6 brands that's at the top of consumers' mind? And that trend will only continue. The way you can do this is by engaging with the user with fresh, relevant content on a daily basis, even if I'm not in the mood to buy, to buy something specific. So now the question is, well, how can I create content? I mean, content is expensive to create. I have to have a lot of human effort, a lot of manual effort. How can I do this? The truth of the matter is that you have a lot of content already. If you're a fashion brand, here's the types of content that you have. You have promotions, you probably have a calendar, you probably create them on a weekly basis, maybe several times a week, maybe several times a month. You have collections, your merchandisers put together collections of items, whether it's a specific collection of purses, sports inventory, maybe jumpsuits, something like that. You have editorial content, that will be style guides, and then obviously products tied to those style guides. Those are subcatalogs. Subcatalogs will be denim jackets or summer dresses or shoes, whatever that is. And then individual products. That's also content. All of this content. Now the question is, how can you create an engaging experience out of this content to each consumer? And currently, that's a very manual, laborious process to do that, to be honest with you. When you think of web, that's probably your content management system as part of your e-commerce platform. You probably go ahead and you update it every 2 weeks and you say, okay, we've got to feature a new collection, and then you go to the Magento platform, whatever that is, and then you update your content there. When you think of email, that's probably you go to your email service provider, you update your email templates, you say, okay, I'm going to feature a new promotion, new collection, you go and create a new email template, you segment your audience, and then you do a lot of work there. When you think of mobile, if I had to ask you to raise your hands, well, first of all, I'd be surprised if many of you had a mobile app, but if you have a mobile app, the next question I would ask is, do you have a content management solution for mobile right now? I'd be surprised if any of you raise your hands. If you do, then raise your hand. So, mobile media management is practically non-existent. And then finally, there is third-party media content, which is, if you think of ads, when you think of third-party media, that's a completely different animal. That's typically an agency, or that's an ad network that you use and custom tools there. The point being is that to create fresh, relevant experience across these channels right now is practically impossible. You cannot do that. You have a lot of work and you have a lot of different teams working on this. When we started with this brand, they were a very typical fashion brand, I would say, in terms of their approach. In 2014 and 2015, their approach was essentially, here's my calendar. I have a calendar of promotions and I have a calendar of my collections. And I will go ahead and update my channels every 2 weeks. So I'll actually go to my content management system, I'll update my content management system every 2 weeks, and then I'll send out an email campaign, introduce a new collection, a new promotion every 2 weeks. It was a lot of work, and that's why they didn't do it more often than every 2 weeks, because they can't do more than that. And what they realized is that they wanted to launch a personalized one-on-one digital experience with their consumers. They launched their e-commerce site a few years back, and then they said, well, ultimately we want to develop loyal relationships with our customers. And that means we need to build that experience, a one-on-one experience. We want to have almost like a magazine-like experience with each consumer, so that they engage with fresh content, marketing content on a daily basis. But they wanted to do it in a way that will align with their marketing and merchandising goals. So they didn't want the generic solution. They didn't want a solution that would insert, let's say, top sellers. And they have a collection that promotes, let's say, purses, and then there would be sports bras showing up because those are top sellers, or this is relevant based on the last shopping cart item user had 3 months ago. Because that wouldn't be a cohesive experience. That wouldn't be aligned with the marketing and merchandising goals. And more importantly, that would end up being very repetitive, because if you haven't done anything new, then you would see the same things over and over and over again. So that was the challenge. In addition to that, when they thought about creating this experience, they said, email is probably the #1 priority for us. Why email? Because the first thing that we do when you come to the website and you buy something from us is that we're going to provide an email, and then you will start getting our content through email. That's the #1 channel, the most frequent touch point channel, and the channel that, the primary channel to pull existing users back onto your site. And when you think of email, they said, we don't want just a generic solution. We don't want like a simple recommendations based on the last shopping cart item or something like that. They said, we need semantic cohesion. We want semantic cohesion where if I'm promoting a collection of this jumpsuits, I want my content also adhere to this collection. I want this in the context of this collection. I still want to personalize. I still want to say, this girl who likes denim should see denim here. And this girl who likes flare, the silky style, that's the content that she will see. But it's in the context of this collection. The second thing is that they wanted to insert other content, because ultimately, just having one creative is not enough in an email. They want to engage with other content in the email. And what is the best content? Well, subcatalogs. They want to feature other subcatalogs, whether it's shorts, sandals, purses, summer dresses, whatever those catalogs are. They want to be able to select those catalogs for each individual user, which ones are the best for each individual user, based on what they've been buying, based on what they've been browsing, based on what they've been doing in the past. And then they wanted to feature products in the same way, stylistically, semantically matching those catalogs at the top. So when you look here, those products actually match the shorts and dresses here. But yet personalized, obviously, because each user should see a unique set of catalogs that's unique, appeals to them. And then, once they do it in email, they said, well, we want to translate the same experience on site. They said, okay, we want to make sure that when I go to the home page, now if I clicked on dresses in my email, when I go to the home page, dresses should be prominently featured on the home page, and then if I'm featuring any products, those products need to go underneath and also match users' tastes here. So this way you go cross-channel. You go email, home page, and then mobile app. You have that consistent experience, consistent and more importantly non-repetitive, because they wanted to ensure that if this woman has seen this dress here 2 times, let's say in an email and homepage, maybe that's enough. If she didn't click on it, maybe that's enough. You want to rotate, switch to a different set of items, and make sure that it doesn't feel repetitive. It doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, this is just so boring because it's always the same things. So those are the requirements, and that's what they wanted to do with their experience. Now my plan was now to show you the solution, what we've done with them in real time, how it actually works. And I don't know if I'll be able to do a full real-time demo. I'm gonna try it now, but we had issues with internet connection. Apparently, the whole conference was only designed to the 25 devices with several hundred people. So I'm gonna show you. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna try to use hotspot connection. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you first an example of an email here that is built by our system essentially. The email consists of a promotion at the very top. You see that this promotion is off shoulders. That's a specific type of inventory that they were promoting. It's a specific type of clothing, and then you see product that match this promotion. And then you see a few subcatalogs. Specifically, you have here, whatever it says, it's very hard to see. Monos, which is in Spanish would be like essentially jumpsuits, maybe the closest translation, and then jackets. And then you have products that match those catalogs. This was personalized originally to me. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually logged into my account, and you can see that, and I'm logged in. And if I go to a specific category now, so I'm going to go to a couple of categories, and it's very hard to navigate. I'm going to hopefully click on sports here. I said, if it doesn't work, we may have to, I'll just have to explain that because, just give me a second. I don't know, yeah, looks like something is happening. And what I want to demonstrate to you, as you can see, okay, so it doesn't look like I'll be able to demonstrate this to you. But what will happen, okay, what will happen is that when you actually click on, I was going to click on a few items. I was going to click on a few items, maybe sports, maybe I would click on handbags, maybe a couple of other things. And what will happen is that now when I go to my email here, if I was to refresh it, and I have internet connection, then this whole experience will actually adjust, and I would see a very different promo here at the top, a very different SKUs here in the bottom, and a very different set of catalogs here in the bottom, based on my experience. It's the same template, it's the same layout that I have, but the content has changed to me. It's like a personalized magazine that has changed to me based on what I've been doing, based on my profile, based on my behavior. And that the entire experience would change and look different for me. And that's the beauty of it. And then if I went to a home page, you could go and see kind of on the home page, we would translate the same experience there. But unfortunately, I can't demonstrate this to you now today because of the issues with the internet connection. It's not my fault. It's the fault. But it's actually a very simple management. It actually feels and looks like a typical, in our dashboard, it feels and looks like a typical template management. So you define your promos, you upload your creatives, you can define what products qualify for a specific promo. If I kind of scroll down a little bit here, so you see that this promo has this creative and it has a specific landing page, it has an end date, if it expires a certain end date. It has certain products that qualify for this promo, and then they insert this promo once, they upload it once, and then it gets distributed across all the channels. It goes to their email, it goes to all of the emails, newsletters. It's going to get featured inside of a homepage, and then ultimately it can go to mobile app. And it's very simple configuration, very simple management. You define this layout once, and then it goes. This layout can work across channels. And so now I'm going to switch to the keynote just one more time, and I'm going to show you that what was the end result. Because ultimately, okay, this is obviously sounds old school and so sounds nice, but what are the results? Now the result is that the brand actually drives personalized one-on-one experience with each user across 30 plus countries. This brand operates in 30 plus countries. They have e-commerce stores across all of these countries. And they have a scalable framework in which they can take the content, all of the marketing content, the promos, the catalogs, the products, all of that content, and inject that content across different channels, across different countries for each individual consumer based on what they're doing, based on what they're shopping. And could be extended even to offline purchases in the same way. And then what they saw is that they saw massive increases in all key metrics. User engagement, the click-through rate significantly went up. Sales per email went up 50%. Now they make 50% more money from email than what they used to do. And they drive a lot more repeat purchases and engagement. The LTV of customers is going up. So all of the performance from revenue standpoint, they have a boost across the board. And then more importantly, automation gains, because now the same marketing team can update all of these channels with new content more quickly and communicate with consumers more frequently. Now they said, you know what, we can actually send 2-3 emails a week because we don't have to worry about going and making sure that all of our channels will get updated because we don't have enough staff to do that, or we don't have enough staff to create creatives. They can actually crank out more collections, merchandisers can create more collections, and they can move a lot faster than they were able to do before. So it's both automation from the human and effort perspective, and it's a huge performance gain from the revenue perspective, and engagement perspective for the end consumers. And with that, I'd like to kind of wrap this up. My apologies again that we couldn't do the internet demo, but you're welcome to come by. we actually have a booth outside, and you know, you're welcome to come by. We do have internet connection there, and you can look at it. So with that, I'd like to open the floor for questions and see if anyone has questions about this and any specifics of how it was done. Yes?
So from what I can see, this makes it really easy to personalize when it comes to categories that you're trying to push and categories that you're trying to shop. But what about, like, how do you not lose the trends that you're trying to tell them about, the stories you're trying to tell with your customers when you're doing this personalization?
Yeah, so the trends is a good point. So the trends is one thing that we also incorporate in that framework. So the trends is performance of the individual, whether it's promotions or performance of individual products, is one of the signals that are embedded into that. But the marketer still has control in terms of, like, if you want to say that do not include, let's say, Purse's promotion until next Monday, you have that control. So you have that control to make sure that, you know, if something trends out very quickly, you can inject it or you can take it out if you don't want to. So you have that control automatically.
My question would be, like, for example, the email template that we looked at, it worked because there was no, like, copy, there was no story, like, anything could be inserted in there.
Yeah.
But what happens if you do have a story to tell and you have copy, like, specifically about, you know, how teal is the color of the month, or how, you know, whatever it is, how do you keep that while personalizing to each customer?
So yeah, so that's a great question. There are two ways you can address that. One is you could create a teal promotion essentially, or a teal story, or like you said, a piece, whether it's an editorial piece or it's a specific promotion. And then you can tell the system to say, okay, any products and catalogs that you can feature in that email have to match that story, that editorial content. So when you uploaded the teal creative that was associated with that story, you also tell the system which products are actually relevant through our simple interface to that story. And then the system will ensure that the product content or the catalog content will actually feature will then match that story essentially. So that's one of the powerful things about it, that the marketer does not lose that merchandise and the marketing control of that story. And but then you also have an approach of, like, if you wanted to go back to static ways, old ways, you can do that too. And kind of if you wanted to say, well, the top header, I still want to do it in the manual way, but then everything else, after that is dynamic, you're welcome to do that as well.
Does it work in a multilingual environment as well?
Yes. Actually, one of the challenges that we have with this brand, the reason why we picked this brand, unfortunately, it was very hard to fly them out of from Europe, but one of the challenges is that they have lots and lots and lots of countries. Like, some of the brands operate 70 countries. So we support all of these languages, and we support different currencies, and we ensure that each consumer sees content in appropriate currency, language, and lands on the specific site. If I'm shopping in Poland, I'll land on Poland's Polish site. If I shop in Spain, I'll land on the Spanish site. If I'm in the US, it's the US site. It's a big challenge. I think for cross-border trade fashion, we're actually going to be participating in that for cross-border trade specifically in September in Europe, because we have so much experience. We're working with eBay, Art.com, Old Posters, this big fashion brand conglomerate. All of our customers operate in many different countries, and we have a lot of experience with that specifically.
Can you do an API into like an ad server or an ad creative server into it as well?
Ad server. Well, ad server will be a little bit different in the terms, like, you mean RTB or something like that?
No, yeah, RTB or like Adicot or something where I can actually take your database, push it out to those who love teal, and then be able to drive people through.
We did some work where we took that content that we have, from our dashboard, where the marketer actually defined everything, and we have a few partners in advertising space where you can actually then serve up that promotion creative or something like that to the user. Once the RTB process decided that this consumer should be served an ad from this fashion brand, we can then decide dynamically on which promotion, which creative, which catalog will be exposed to that user based on that profile. So we have some early work in that space, but it's still early and it's not as official as some of the work we do here in the first part of the channels. else? Anybody else wants to ask? Great.